Skippers. Thank you very much for joining in us in this session. Today we have Bill Mertens with us. He's aka BooBill. He's the leader in the global ranking, and today we will talk about the feature that we have we launched 2 weeks ago regarding the NOAA forecast. So we have added the support for GFS 0.25 degrees resolution. And we have built some races, we have built the Canary Islands Exploration Race, and we also have built the Hawaii Exploration Race. And the idea here is that Bill can share with us, his experience, and also what has he used for the strategy, and so on and so forth. So thank you very much, Bill, for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you again with us, and welcome to the session. And please go ahead and tell us about this experience of using the GFS 0.25 degrees resolution, and how do you see it, during the sailing and the competition?
Yeah, well, hi, Pablo. Yeah, so we, this is a case where, the community was making a request to add to the realism to the game, to go to higher resolution wind files. And the reason, was simply to add more realism to the game. Previously the game was using the 1 degree GFS grid to drive the game winds, which is what all the other games use. And it just doesn't produce much of a gradient. I mean, the wind is kind of steady over the course. You get boats that are miles apart sailing in pretty much the same wind. You don't see any kind of land effects. And one of the things, like, the reason we chose to do the first race with the higher resolution grids was to go to the Canaries. With a 1 degree grid, the wind just flows over the islands like they're not there, which, of course, we know that's not the case. I mean, you get real venturis. I mean, Venturi is called Venturi for a reason. Yeah. The wind venturis between the islands, and you get wind shadows behind them. So it was technically possible. Pablo listened to the community and responded, and found a way. There's a little bit more technological kind of load to it, but we got it done, and it worked out well. It completely changed the racing. Just completely changed the racing. We had cases. Well, first off, we had very unusual weather conditions. Rather than the normal northeast flow that you get in the Canaries, there was a large low pressure kind of situated up around the Azores that reversed the wind flow for the Canaries. And it produced this huge wind shadow behind Tenerife. And the first night going through, people took different lines to kind of go up and up high enough so that they missed the wind shadow. Some of us tried to cut right through, which is what our routers told us to do, that, you'd power through this pretty quickly. And a small group skipped along the coast. The guys who skipped along the coast, took advantage of the shore breeze, which is really there. And that was the smart thing to do. The guys who tried to go right through the middle of the wind shadow just ended up in swirling winds that were hard to escape from. And some people were frustrated by that, but it's kind of like, okay, we have upped the realism of the game.
Yes, like in real life, yeah.
Yeah. And the end result, I mean, a lot of the races sort of end up just like a conga line, right? Everybody's on the same route. There's really only one way to go. Guys who kind of fine tune their boat a little bit better, kind of pick optimal wind angles. You kind of get a couple 100 meters here, 100 meters there. And that's how the game, the race ends. One guy, usually me, is at the front of a conga line, and everybody else, and you're separated by hundreds of meters.
Yeah.
This this kind of, when you looked at the tracker map, it looked a lot more like a real yacht race where people took completely different lines. It was snakes and ladders. Guys got it right, guys got it wrong. Updates, like as weather would evolve. Some routes were just, no, that wasn't good, and some guys really called it right. So I just want to kind of replay the race here. If I can share the screen.
We added to the game, the possibility of replaying the race. So maybe, yeah, you Bill can share with us, the replay of the race and see how was the experience, and during the competition. Yeah.
All right, can you see my screen now?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So this is kind of right after the start. And the course was just kind of a zigzag. This was just to test out the new grids. So we just kind of start off in the northeast corner above Lanzarote, and kind of go down and then back up and zigzag through. And let me hit play here. And I'm going to stop it. So here you can see Hardtack is leading a group that kind of goes down south, whereas I'm leading a group. Now, this is the current wind. This isn't the wind we had during the race. During the race, the wind was coming up from the southwest, and there was a huge wind shadow just right here. And but with kind of a shore breeze right along the shore. And whereas I'm leading the race at this point, you can see what happens. We just kind of stalled up and Hardtack sailed right through. Now we get down to the first mark, and Hardtack takes a completely different line than anybody else, right up the middle, whereas everybody else stayed south. And he got to the second mark, I think, about 8 hours ahead of anyone. And then he kind of stays in a middle route here. And look at Aventure. He goes down, he takes a very southern route. Now, me at this point, I'm thinking, well, I've got to split tacks because I'm not going to catch him by sailing behind him. So I go up to the extreme north, expecting if the winds reverse and we get the normal trade flow, I want to be upwind when that happens. And it happened, but it happened a little bit too late for me. And you can see, so 1, 2, 3 was Hardtack, then Aventure, then myself, sailing completely different routes. One of us went right through the middle, one took an extreme north, and the other took an extreme south, and ended up finishing 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it was a race. It was nailed.
Yeah, there were different courses, different options during the competition. Some of them were sailing south, some of them were in the middle, some of them were sailing north. So this is cool, to see this kind of experience. Yeah.
Yeah, and just depending on where you were around the islands, I mean, there were cases where one boat was in 5 knots of wind and another boat was in 20 knots of wind that was only 5 or 6 miles away. And well, that's the way it really is at the Canaries. If you're in the wind shadow behind the island, it's dead, and it's just ripping in between the islands. So it really upped the realism of the game. Now we did a second one in the Hawaiian Islands, which you had the normal trade flow. The Molokai Express was the Molokai Express. Some guys made some big gains by kind of going north of Molokai. We started off in the Big Island. Some guys went over Maui, then down through the Molokai Express. They ended up sailing a longer distance, but really picked up some speed. I think if we had done that race in an Imoca 60 class, that would have been a little bit more interesting. We did it in the Wrestler 36, the same boat we use for the GGR.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a displacement hull boat. So it kind of has a 7-knot maximum hull speed. So you really couldn't take advantage of the wind differences. It would have been kind of different if we did it in, in an apparent wind boat, where there would have been really, really large speed differences. With this boat, it's kind of like whether you're in light winds, strong winds, kind of got it on the beam or got it behind you, kind of goes the same speed. So, but the Canary Islands race was was a real experience. I don't think I've ever worked hard in a race.
Awesome.